feel like increasingly at like TCAs and Comic-Con that there's talk, like the biggest conversation, biggest emphasis sometimes is on crossover episodes.
Sure.
How do you feel about that conversation, that being like, it seems to dominate a lot, especially during the panel yesterday?
Well, I mean, consider that for a second. My first Comic-Con was in 2012, and I was here, and there was one comic book show that was about to be on the air, and it was us. So last night at the WB party, it's nice photo. Last night at the WB party, there are 5 DC properties on television this fall. The fact that we're able to talk about crossovers is because we took, granted, 99% of it is Grant Gustin, but we took a character that people really identify with in Barry Allen, and boom, got his own show. And I mean, I think that's awesome. Being in the Flash pilot, spoiler, was so cool. You know what I mean? And the opportunity to do a big 2-night crossover event, it's awesome. I mean, it's one of the things that you want to happen on TV as a viewer and a fan. So, and it's like, I actually came up with an idea for a crossover on The Flash that's going to be much less publicized. You'll know it when you see it, and remember that it was my idea.
Can you tease it out a little bit, just a little?
The character that we have met in Starling City is going to appear in Central City. We know they're there, and they're going to reference something that teaches us an Arrow lesson. Okay?
I'm still a bit heartbroken by the fake declaration of love.
Was it fake?
Well, maybe hope not. But how do you feel about that relationship? Where do you want it to go?
I'm glad that viewers who felt like maybe they were faked out, they are getting their full resolution. Was he telling the truth? Was he lying? You have to wait one more episode. I'm sorry that it's in October, but you get a full explanation as to what that meant.
What about with Brandon Ruth's character coming in?
Very exciting. That's an element to the show that we haven't had. It's funny. I found myself in our first scene together. He's giving this big speech, and I found myself giggling. As Oliver, I was pissed, but in my head, I was giggling a little bit. He's great. Super professional, really good actor, and it's an element to the show that we haven't had before. I'm excited, season 3, adding somebody like Brandon, and adding the Hong Kong element to the flashbacks, it's important. It keeps everything fresh.
Let's talk about strong female characters in comic books, and obviously Arrow has so many of those. But unlike comic books, the women on Arrow are not, sexualized, they're not degraded. They're there, they're strong.
Yeah. Hey, listen. One of the coolest things on the show is like introducing a character like Canary, and have Katie Loss just be such a badass. Like, let's, she kicks ass, and let's get as many people on the show that can kick ass, men, women, gay, straight. Let's get as many people to kick ass as we can. One of my favorite things on the show, this is a true story, I love when I get the shit kicked out of me on the show. It's one of my favorite things. Oliver doesn't have superpowers. You know what I mean? Like, we have to believe that he's fallible, that he's vulnerable, that the world is dangerous, because it takes the stakes of the show and it rises them up.
We're trying to build like psychography as well. It's some of the best, if not the best psychography.
Yeah. Us not getting nominated for stunt coordination at Emmys is such horseshit. Okay, on such a high level, and I don't mean to talk down about the other shows, but Jesus Christ, like, come on, guys. And the only thing that I will say about the stunt coordination is every once in a while we simplify it. For example, in our second episode, I'm interrogating a guy. He's a fringe character. He's not important to the central story, but I'm trying to get information from him. And it was written like Oliver places him in this like crazy martial arts wrist lock and twists it and bones crack. And I say to our fight choreographer, Bam Bam, I'm like, dude, how about instead of that, I ask him for information, he doesn't give it to me, and I punch him in the stomach as hard as I can. And then I ask him again, he doesn't do it, and I take the bow and I crack him in the leg. So every once in a while we simplify things, but I'm very, very proud of our stunts.
How do you feel about where Thea's arc is going?
So fired up. You know, Willa is so capable and such a wonderful actor, and the fact that we've had her for 46 episodes and haven't had a really Thea-centric episode, I feel like, you know, it's like we've cultivated this character, and the audience has got to know this character for 2 years, and then we're going to give her the car keys this year. Like, season 3, Thea's graduation, metaphorical, not actual. I'm so fired up for her. Our third episode is flashbacks for her, and she's going to nail it.
Talk about you mentioned to keep up your character's vulnerability. There's so many people now that know his real identity.
It's true.
Is there any point though that like where does that vulnerability come in play where he's trying to protect people who don't know? There's so few of those now, you know. Like, does that have anything to do with?
Well, knowing not. Knowing not knowing. There's always my periphery is just going to danger, right? And that's a theme that we address in the first episode this year. I really hope that we get to a point in the show where I pull a Tony Stark at the end of Iron Man. Be like, hey guys, I'm the hero, everybody, okay? Right? Hood down, mask off. That way, I wouldn't have to get the eye makeup on anymore.